Hey, I'm WVTM 13 Chief Meteorologist Jason Simpson. You know it's been dry around here lately, so much so that the fall leaves have been somewhat muted, but at least we got some color in some spots, like up on Oak Mountain in Shelby County. This was the view from David Graves earlier. And by the way, if you ever get a great shot that you would like to share, would love to see it. You can email us easily. I'm easy to find. You can hit us up on social media. Or, of course, WVTM13.com/upload is an easy way to do that. So let's talk about where we're going with the drought. It came on quickly, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Through Friday, we're running a 5.5-inch rainfall deficit since September 1st, which is significant. That's a big deal, but it's only going to get worse from here over the next, say, week to 10 days. The potential is there for a little bit of rain. The Climate Prediction Center's 8 to 14 day outlook calls for near normal rainfall out in that 8 to 14 day time frame. Now, that's going to include at least one storm system that I think does have a shot, a reasonable chance of giving us some decent rainfall. But what do we need here? We need 2.5 to 3 inches of rain to get out of the drought. And between now and November 17th, there's only about a 40% chance that we would get enough rain to do that. So here's what we're looking at. There is potential for the return flow to develop early next week. And by return flow, what I mean is you've got moisture coming from the Gulf of Mexico northward back onto the continent. It has been absolutely shut down because of these strong areas of Arctic high pressure that have been coming south. Well, we're done with that temporarily, more than temporarily, probably for the next 2 to 2.5 weeks. I don't see anything out there that looks nearly as cold as what we came through right after Halloween. But with that return flow, we've got just enough moisture returning here over the deep south that as a cold front comes in, I think there's a reasonable chance, it is certainly possible, that a cold front could spark a few scattered showers over North Alabama late next week. So how much rain are we talking about? Not a lot. See this zone right here over the Tennessee Valley. At best here, we're talking maybe a half inch to 3/4 of an inch of rain northwest of Birmingham, and then next to nothing for everybody else. But here's the good part. Out there between November 11th and November 15th, we're looking at about a 30% chance just over that period that we could have more than 1 inch of rainfall. So the blue here represents where we might have more than a half inch. You get up to that darker green, that's about a half inch. The dark blues represent about 1/2 to just under 1 inch of rain, and then you get over towards southwestern Mississippi, Louisiana, it could be a bit more than that. So is this realistic? Is this something that you can really hang your hat on? I don't think so. Not yet, at least. This is one of the plots that we can look at to get an idea of how likely something would be. And in this, roughly half of the ensemble members from the GEFS suggest we could have measurable rainfall. That's more than 1/10 of an inch. Only, as I count them here, 1, 2, 3 suggest more than 1 inch, and that's 3 out of 30, so that's roughly 10% of the model members that are coming to the table, all the different scenarios. And then there are a handful of them that say no rain at all. So I think what you can take away from that is that rain is somewhat likely. We just don't have a very good handle on how much it would be yet. Could it be impactful? It could be. Will it be impactful? That is something, as a colleague David Hartman down at WAPT in Jackson said a little while ago, something I can be skeptical about. But here's what's actually happening. So we've had these big, strong areas of high pressure like this one, that is the Arctic high, and then we still have the remnant of that over the eastern seaboard here on Friday night. Watch what happens by Monday. Pretty deep area of low pressure. See how we go from normal pressure to low to intense? That one's getting pretty strong there over northern Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan on Monday. Now, what you'll get from that is naturally a cold front right here, and then you're going to have a warm front that's right in there. So it's a classic mid-latitude cyclone. And then somewhere in this zone right here, you would naturally expect some rain. But it's so dry that I don't know that we get any. Something else to keep an eye on is what's going on over the Pacific with that system that's approaching the Pacific Northwest. A storm in that position is cutting off our supply to any Arctic air, and this air mass, this next area of high pressure, guess where it came from? Came right off the Pacific Ocean. It's going to go over the mountains and then work its way down into northwest Alabama on Thursday. That's where that little chance of some showers or maybe a brief downpour is going to come from. A Pacific front, even though this area of high pressure is really intense, I mean, that is a big time area of high pressure. Yes, it does get a little Canadian influence to it, but it's not going to just force the cold Arctic air southward. Like I said, it's cut off. So this is a Pacific air mass. Usually when we get a Pacific air mass, there's not a lot of temperature change, nor is there a lot of rainfall. But then watch what happens with this thing. When we get a high that tries to get off the East Coast, especially into this zone right here, that's off the eastern seaboard, we get a better return flow. And what I've drawn here in this position, see that dashed line right there, that's an inverted trough. So you've got an area of low pressure developing here, and you've got an inverted trough going up into that. This is days away. I mean, we're talking after Veterans Day into early next week. This front has come through. So what happens here is that there is a reasonable chance that if that high is, number one, not as strong as it looks, and number two, maybe a bit farther east or farther southeast, that we could get enough return flow for some significant rain. These are all could be's and maybes and might be's at this point. There's nothing that is solid other than several more days of very dry weather. Weekend looks good though. Bama LSU, Auburn Vandy, UAB, and Florida Atlantic here in central Alabama. Of course, you've got Mississippi State with the classic interlocking MSU over in Starkville this weekend. It's cold in the morning, warm in the afternoon. Pretty typical of early November to have big swings like this from the cold back to the warm. We'll get that Canadian and Pacific air mass in toward the end of the week. You get that really slight chance of a shower or two by Thursday and Friday, and then that's going to be all she wrote until potentially Sunday or Monday of next week. Right now, I don't see any severe weather potential with that, but it's something we'll keep an eye on. Depending on where that high ends up, it could be a cold rain or we could end up with some thunderstorms. So too far out in the distance to know exactly how it'll work out, but again, at least it's finally something to talk about in the rain department.